Tokyo was once the world's most expensive city to live in, but no more. A survey from the Economist Intelligence Unit has found Singapore now holds the crown. Joining me now is Edward Bell, who's a senior economist with the EIU. Good to see you, Edward.
Hi.
Okay, so Singapore, I have to tell you, like living in Asia, I'm a bit surprised that Singapore has now taken the crown.
Well, the movement of Singapore up the rankings to number one reflects a number of factors, and in some ways not factors that are endemic to Singapore itself. So a lot of the reason we've seen Tokyo and the big Japanese cities move down in the rankings is because of the depreciation of the yen that we've seen in the past year. So that's really brought down the comparative living costs when you translate them back into US dollars. But for Singapore itself, historically there's been pretty steady inflation in the country, or in the city, for a long time, as well as just there are some very structurally high costs there. So if you, let's say, want to own and run a car in Singapore, it's going to be comparatively more expensive than a lot of other cities.
Okay, yeah, we all know about the tax that they put on cars there, but I mean, this survey didn't factor in housing, did it?
No, we're really looking at what the cost of living that a person moving to that city would face compared with what we use as New York as our base city. So when you have Singapore being ranked at the top, it's going to be a proportionately more expensive city than it would be if you're having the same, let's say, base level expenditure in New York City.
Okay, and as in particular Chinese cities, how are they faring, considering the fact that, you know, the expanding middle class, you have higher wages there? Is that translating into higher prices in cities?
Absolutely. So Chinese cities have been moving up as we've been conducting the survey. So now we actually have Shanghai ranked one place higher than New York City, and that reflects some of the factors that you mentioned. So rising wage costs and just a wider consuming base has meant that inflation is growing and pushing up. So that's going to push Chinese cities up the ranking. But also their movement up reflects the movement down of some other cities. Because we're looking at it as an indices, if you have Japanese or Australian cities moving down in comparative cost, that means there's other cities that need to be moved up, and Chinese cities are going up as well.
Okay, when you do a city like this, obviously currency has a major thing to do with it, but currency can fluctuate pretty rapidly, right? I mean, how much is it a real, I guess a steady indicator as to how much the cost of living is?
That's right. So when we conduct the survey, it's at a set exchange rate for when we do the survey. So that means that the cost will obviously be changed. We conduct the survey twice a year, so you'll see cities move up and down during that time. But for instance, when we conducted the survey, you saw a lot of the cities that had a weakening in their exchange rate. So that's Japan, Australia, but also cities like Jakarta saw their positions move down quite a lot as the currency in Indonesia depreciated last year.
Okay, and so everyone likes to know the most expensive city as well as where's the biggest bargain. So where's the best bang for your buck?
Well, a lot of the cities we have in the sort of the top or the bottom 10 of the relatively cheapest cities are in places like South Asia or in the Middle East, where costs may be controlled by government policies to keep living costs for food, utilities, petrol, things like that at a relatively lower value than you would have in, say, European or North American cities.
Okay, so when you say South Asia, which
so you
cities?
have cities like Mumbai, New Delhi, but also cities like Riyadh and Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, where things like petrol costs are going to be a fraction of what they are in a place like Singapore.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Edward Bell.
Thank you.